Hello, I'm Dr. Pat O'Neill with the MUSC Weight Management Center. For the next few minutes, we'll be talking about what's really going on when we gain weight or when we lose weight. And the spoiler about this is that it's all about energy balance. For many people, it's a challenge to manage their weight, it's a challenge to lose weight, and it's made all the more frustration because it often seems a mystery as to what's going on when we gain weight or lose weight. And what I'd like to talk about today is a little bit of information that can help you unlock that mystery, because there really are some physical and biological laws of nature that control the changes in our body weight in the short term and in the long term. One important distinction is that between water weight and fat weight, and our total body weight comprises both of these components. It only takes 1 pint of water, 16 fluid ounces, to make 1 pound of water. There's an old saying, a pint's a pound the world around. So that's important to understand. It's easy to change your body's water weight by 1 or 2 or 3 pints in a very short period of time. And because of that, we see that our weight fluctuates more in the short term because of changes in water weight than it does because of changes in fat weight. Fat tissue is what we're talking about when we're really trying to lose weight for health. We're really trying to reduce the amount of fat weight that we have. In the process, we will change our water weight balance too, but fat tissue is what we're primarily targeting. Fat tissue is important. It's not all bad. It's just how much you have that can create a health problem or health problems for you. For example, fat tissue is very necessary for producing a variety of hormones with actions throughout the body. We need a certain amount of fat tissue for insulation, for helping to maintain a constant body temperature. But also, and very importantly, fat tissue is how we store surplus energy that we consume. This has been vital for the survival of species, including ours, forever. Animals, when they are allowed to consume more calories, more energy than they require, will store most of the difference as body fat. And this is what allows them to survive in times when food is scarce or in short supply. This is what allowed our ancestors thousands of years ago to survive periods of time when food was not available, and it's because they were able to essentially overeat when food was abundant. And so you get to live off of that surplus energy that you've taken on in previous times because you can draw on it from your fat stores. Very, very, very important for survival of animals. And as I mentioned, we're talking about energy and calories in the same breath, and that's because a calorie is first and foremost a unit of energy, and more precisely, it's a unit of heat energy. You might think of BTUs that you talk about or that you look at when you're buying a heating system or an air conditioning system, and that describes the amount of heat energy that that unit can either produce or remove. And in fact, we can actually convert the calorie measure that we use for energy represented in food to BTUs. 1 calorie is about 4 BTUs. So you can look at your air conditioner and wonder how many calories it's disposing of for you, although none of them are coming from you personally. Fat tissue, as I said, is where we store surplus energy. And so because of that, if we want to change our fat tissue, we need to either produce more surplus, consume more surplus energy, or draw on the energy that's stored in that body fat. So calories in will equal the calories that we burn, plus or minus some change in body fat. This is referred to as the energy balance equation. It's pretty straightforward. If you are eating, or I shouldn't say eating, if you're consuming, because we get lots of calories from liquids as well. If you're consuming exactly as much energy as you're expending, then we expect your fat stores to remain at a constant level. And so you're in energy balance, and we would not expect your fat weight to be changing. On the other hand, if you consume more calories than you're burning, you're going to store most of the difference in body fat, so your body fat weight will increase. On the other hand, and this is what we're trying to do when we're trying to lose weight, if you burn more calories than you take in, you're in a state of what we call negative energy balance, and you would be losing a certain amount of fat weight. And of course, you can change the balance, your energy balance, both by influencing how many calories you take in and by influencing how many calories you expend in activity level. Now, it's important to know there's a rate of exchange to this process. And the rough rule of thumb is that if you have 1 pound of body fat and you use the energy in that body fat pound, that you should be able to obtain about 3,500 calories worth of energy contained in a pound of body fat. So what that means is to lose a pound of body fat, you've got to burn 3,500 calories more than you take in. I'll say more about this momentarily. But looking at this 3,500 calories to 1 pound of body fat equation, if you do some math, you can see what a continuation of minor imbalances can mean. For example, if every day you are in a state of energy imbalance in the same direction by only 100 calories a day, that's the equivalent of 10 pounds a year. So if you're burning 100 calories a day more than you're taking in each and every day, we would expect that you should lose about 10 pounds per year in that 1 year. On the other hand, if every day you took in only 100 calories more than you were burning, we could predict that by the end of 1 year, you'd be the proud owner of 10 new pounds of body fat. Obviously, these are very, very rough examples, but they generally hold true. And again, if you were out of balance by 500 calories a day, that would be equal to 50 pounds a year. I like to use the 500 calories a day example because on a weekly basis, that would translate to a change in body weight of approximately 1 pound per week. Now, it's important to note that what we're talking about in terms of an energy surplus or an energy deficit is the net difference between the energy that you take in food and drink versus the energy that you expend. And each of those can vary over time, but it's the net that determines what your fat stores will be doing. Let's take a look briefly at where the calories come from and where they go. The 4 sources of calories are shown here, and these are the macronutrients of carbohydrates, protein, and fat. When we talk about a gram of either of them, any of them, we're talking about a gram of the pure carbohydrate or pure protein or fat, and not a gram of a carbohydrate food or a protein food, which will have other constituents which add to the weight. But every gram of pure carbohydrate provides about 4 calories of energy. The same is true for every gram of protein. On the other hand, a gram of fat provides more than twice as much energy, twice as many calories, 9 calories per gram. And so fat can be seen as a very dense source of calories. It's easier to take in excess calories in fat than it is to take in extra calories in protein or carbohydrates because fat is just so dense in calories. Also, fat tends to make foods taste better. So it tends to carry the flavor of whatever the carbohydrate and protein constituents are. So it makes it more palatable, and it might encourage us to eat a larger volume of that food if it's got more fat in it. And then when we store those extra calories, there's always an energy cost to storing surplus calories, but the cost is much less when it's fat calories that we're storing, and so we store it more efficiently. So it's sort of a triple whammy, and that's why it's always important to pay particular attention to fat, but not only fat. Now, alcohol also provides calories, and here we're talking about a gram of pure 200 proof 100% alcohol, which is thought to provide about 7 calories of energy, but there's some debate about how exactly the body disposes of those calories. But in general, we're looking at calories coming from carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Let's look at the other side of the energy balance, where the calories go. And by convention, we talk about three main components of our daily total energy expenditure. The bulk of that is used up in what's called resting metabolism, and we can measure this, and we do at the Weight Management Center, measure people's resting metabolic rate. And resting metabolism consists of all the energy that is required to keep the body running when you are still. So when we measure this, we have you come in without having eaten it or consumed anything in the morning, let you settle down for a while, and we measure the oxygen that you're consuming from breathing, and that tends to correlate with the amount of energies that you are burning. When you think about it, it takes a good bit of calories to maintain a body. Our heart has to pump. We've got to move our chest muscles so that we're breathing, we're moving air, we're making hormones, we're repairing body cells. All of our body's organs require calories, kidneys, liver, brain, all of them. And so this is kind of the body's overhead expense. No matter what else, other calories you burn, you're going to burn the calories in resting metabolic rate, and that amounts to 60 to 70% of your daily burn. There's another small component which is called the thermic effect of food, and that is the energy that we throw off, surplus energy expended after a meal. Some of it comes from the energy cost of digesting and absorbing the nutrients, and some of it is just a homeostatic mechanism whereby we're wasting a little of the excess energy that we've taken in. You might sometimes notice that you start to feel hot 15 minutes or so after you eat, and this is what's going on there. And what this leaves is 20 to 30% of your daily calorie burn, and that's typically from physical activity, and that includes anything more exertional than simply sitting still in one position. So standing, you're adding a few calories that you're burning that you wouldn't be if you were sitting. If you're walking, you're burning more yet. If you're running and jumping, you're burning still more. So physical activity constitutes about 20 to 30% of your daily calorie expenditure. So this is pretty much the way that we burn our calories. And again, the physical activity is the one part of this that you can affect directly. Now, many people think that folks with obesity have a deficient resting metabolic rate, and that is very, very rarely the case. It's much more often the case that bigger people have higher resting metabolic rates. This gives you some examples here of a 30-year-old woman at one height at 3 different body weights. If you think about it, larger cars need more gas to get around than smaller cars. And the same is true for larger bodies. To maintain a larger body takes more energy than a smaller body. Also, there's a difference in the calories that we expend in activity. Bigger bodies will typically require more calories to carry out the same type of activity for the same amount of time. And this shows you examples of calories expended per hour in different activities for 2 people, one who weighs 130, the other one who weighs 190 pounds. And you can see the bigger person, because the bigger person is moving more mass through space, is burning more calories in a given activity. So I hope now that you've seen some of the things that are going on when you're losing weight or gaining weight. And I think it's important to remember, however, that your weight changes on a day-to-day basis may have very little to do with whether you're actually following a healthy diet or a good exercise program. Remember, your daily weight changes are much more likely to reflect changes in your body water weight. And it takes more to lose or gain a pound of body fat than to lose or gain a pound of body water. Remember our rule of thumb, a pound of body fat contains about 3,500 calories. If you create a deficit in calories, if you burn 500 calories more per day than you take in, then we would predict you'd lose about a pound a week. Again, this is very rough and approximate. But remember, we're not simply saying cut what you're eating by 500 calories. Because if you're currently gaining weight and you reduce your intake by 500 calories, you will be gaining less weight than you are now. You might even be losing some weight, but you have not created a 500 calorie a day deficit. You've got to look at what you're consuming versus what you're expending. Remember too that over time, if you're dieting, your energy expenditure may well drop some. When you go on a diet, your metabolic rate drops, not to a disastrous degree. On average, it may drop about 10 to 15%, depending on how big a calorie deficit you create, but it never drops so much that it's self-defeating. You still will be losing weight. The other thing, of course, is if you're successful at dieting over the long haul and you lose a significant amount of body weight, you now have a smaller body, which requires less energy. So take all this into account and don't be discouraged if your actual weight changes over the weeks and months are something different from what you might predict based on what you think you're burning and what you think you're consuming. Remember also that we're notoriously bad at actually and accurately estimating how much energy we take in. Remember also to count all those calories from beverages of various kinds. Now, if you are looking for help in changing the way your energy balance equation is adding up, then I would encourage you to contact us at the MUSC Weight Management Center. You can go to our website, which is shown here, or call us at 792-2273. We'd be happy to inform you about our different programs and their prices. For employees of MUSC, MUSC physicians, and the hospital authority, we have employee discounts, and we also have payroll deduction plans, which allow you to spread the cost of your program out over a year. So hopefully this has been helpful to you, and if we can be of more help to you going forward, please call us at the Weight Management Center.